The armory smelled like oil, metal, and quiet respect, the kind of respect only earned by those who'd used what lined these walls. Racks of rifles, polished sidearms, and sealed crates filled the space, each tagged with serial numbers that only a careful eye would bother reading. Sergeant Mia Torres moved through the narrow aisles with deliberate steps, her uniform sleeves rolled up, grease smudged near her wrist. She wasn't talking, wasn't boasting. Just checking every weapon that came through the special operations supply chain before dawn. Most of the unit barely noticed her. To them, she was the quiet armorer, the one who logged rifles, repaired scopes, and ensured the firing pins didn't jam when their lives depended on it. But that morning, a group of Special Forces operators entered with the kind of swagger that came with too many medals and too much coffee. "Morning, Sergeant," said Captain Reeves, leaning against the doorframe. "Got our long guns ready for the range." Mia didn't look up. "They're calibrated and zeroed, sir." As always. Behind him, a tall sniper with mirrored sunglasses chuckled. "Calibrated, huh, we'll see. Last time, that Barrett pulled left by 2 clicks. That's because you rested it on concrete," Mia said calmly, still tightening a bolt. The bipod dug unevenly. "You overcompensated." The room fell quiet for half a beat. The sniper raised an eyebrow. "You got all that from my grouping sheet." She looked up for the first time, a flat, measured stare. "I got it from experience." He smirked. "Experience behind the counter, you mean?" A few of the others laughed under their breath. The sound didn't reach her. She just finished the inspection, logged the rifle, and slid the clipboard across the counter. Barrett M107A1, clean and ready. But the sniper wasn't done. He glanced toward the long range visible through the armory's open door, a stretch of dirt and distance that shimmered under the rising desert sun. "You ever even fire one of these past 100 meters?" he asked. "Or do you just quote the manual?" Mia closed the logbook slowly, setting her pen down with a soft click. 100 meters isn't long range, Sergeant." "Oh," he grinned. "Then what's long range to you?" She looked him dead in the eye. "When you start adjusting for the curvature of the earth." That earned a few looks from his team. The sniper laughed outright. "You saying you could make a mile shot? 3,800 meters. He tapped the scope. "With this?" Mia's tone didn't change. "Yes." He blinked, waiting for a trace of humor. There wasn't any. "You're serious?" "I don't bet," she said, turning back to her bench. "Then I'll bet for both of us," he said, slapping a magazine onto the counter. "One shot. 3,800 meters. I'll even pick the target. You miss. You clean my kit for a week. You hit. I'll never question your experience again." The rest of the room stirred, eager for entertainment. Mia sighed quietly. She finished reassembling the rifle in her hands, then stood. "Fine, but I'll use your rifle." The laughter died fast. They followed her out to the range, desert heat already rising off the sand. Wind whispered across the dunes, subtle but steady, about 4 knots from the east, she noted. The sniper, now frowning a little, handed over his Barrett and stepped aside. The target was barely visible, a dull metal plate glinting in the far haze, marked at precisely 3,800 meters. It was the kind of range that humbled even elite snipers. She lay prone, adjusting the rifle on the bipod. Her movements were precise, almost methodical, no hesitation, no showmanship. She adjusted the cheek rest, dialed the elevation knob, then checked the mirage through the scope. "Need a spotter?" Reeves offered. She shook her head. "I'll call it myself." They watched as she scribbled quick calculations on a small card: wind drift, temperature, humidity, and Coriolis effect. "Who is she?" one of the younger soldiers whispered. "Just the armorer," another said. She chambered around. The heavy click echoed like punctuation. Then she inhaled, exhaled once, and held. For a moment, even the wind seemed to still. The Barrett thundered. The recoil kicked hard, but she rolled with it smoothly. Through the scope, she stayed on target, eyes steady. 2, 3, 4 seconds, then a distant metallic ping whispered back across the desert, faint but unmistakable. The plate had swung. No one spoke. Reeves blinked. Quote. "That's impossible." Mia cleared the chamber, set the rifle down, and stood, brushing dust off her sleeves. "Your rifle's zeroed properly now," she said quietly. The sniper's sunglasses slipped a little down his nose. He stopped, jaw tightening. "That wasn't luck." "No," she said simply. He hesitated. "Who trained you?" Mia gave a small smile. "Not arrogance, just memory. Long time ago. Different unit." Reeves frowned. Which one? She paused at the door, glancing back. JSOC. Tier 1 evaluation team. The silence that followed was the kind that filled entire rooms. Reeves finally spoke. So you were attached, she said, cutting him off politely. Until the team rotated out. The sniper stepped forward, his earlier grin replaced by something like respect. What was your call sign? Mia looked at him, eyes calm, unreadable. Viper 6. Every head turned. Even the captain straightened unconsciously. That name had weight. Whispered among operators, attached to one of the few confirmed record-range eliminations in a live operation overseas. The sniper swallowed. You're that Viper 6. Mia only gave a small shrug, walking back into the armory. Just the armorer now, but behind her, the sound of that single distant ping still echoed, a sound that said otherwise. By afternoon, the story had spread through the base like wildfire. No one knew exactly who started it, maybe one of the junior spotters who'd seen it firsthand, or maybe someone in the control tower who'd overheard the radio chatter. But by the time the sun began to sink over the desert ridgeline, everyone was talking about the armorer who hit a 3,800-meter shot. Inside the mess hall, conversations paused when Mia walked in. She'd come for nothing more than coffee and a sandwich, her uniform sleeves still smudged from oil and carbon powder. But whispers moved through the room before she even reached the counter. That's her, someone murmured. No way, the shot was at least 2 miles. Ask Sergeant Briggs, he was there. Mia didn't look up, she poured coffee, sat at an empty table, and opened a small maintenance log she'd brought with her. If the stares bothered her, she didn't show it. She'd learned long ago that attention was like recoil, predictable, temporary, and something you could absorb if you braced for it. A familiar voice interrupted. Mind if I sit? It was Captain Reeves. He carried his own tray, though the food looked forgotten already. His expression wasn't mocking this time. More like careful curiosity. Mia gave a small nod. Sure. He sat across from her, lowering his voice. You know you made the sniper section completely useless for the rest of the day. She raised an eyebrow. How's that? They've been out on the range since noon trying to recreate your shot. So far, nobody's even come close. Half of them think the wind shifted, the other half think you bent physics. She sipped her coffee. Or maybe they just need to adjust their ego settings. Reeves chuckled, shaking his head. You really don't like attention, do you? I didn't do it for attention. He leaned forward slightly. Then why take the bet? Her eyes lifted from the logbook. Because I don't let people mock experience they don't understand. For a moment, neither spoke. Around them, the mess hall buzzed with subdued chatter, the low hum of soldiers who wanted to look but didn't dare approach. Finally, Reeves exhaled. You're ex-Tier 1, right? That wasn't a bluff. I was evaluated for it, she said carefully. Did some work with JSOC teams when they needed test shooters for prototype optics. Nothing official. Classified overlap. And the call sign, Viper 6. She gave a small shrug. That name belonged to a unit, not just me. There were 6 of us. 1 team, 1 record. Only 2 still alive. The silence that followed was heavy, edged with understanding. Reeves didn't press. He could see the 1,000-yard distance in her eyes, not the physical kind, but the kind that came from things left unspoken. After a moment, he said quietly, you know they're setting up a demonstration tomorrow. She frowned. What kind of demonstration? For the visiting generals. Logistics, equipment readiness, that kind of thing. They want to showcase advanced sniper systems. He paused, watching her reaction. And the command staff specifically asked if the armorer would attend. Mia blinked once. They want me to shoot. Reeves grinned faintly. They want to see you shoot. The next morning, the range looked different. Flags lined the perimeter, cameras were set up at the observation tower, and several high-ranking officers gathered under a shaded tent, talking over coffee. The Special Forces team stood nearby, gear polished to perfection, pretending not to look nervous. Mia arrived quietly, wearing the same fatigues as yesterday, no insignia beyond her name patch. The sniper from before, Briggs, approached her, helmet tucked under his arm. His tone was cautious now, even respectful. Morning, ma'am, he said. We've got the range calibrated to the same distance. Winds cross current, 3 knots westward. Visibility's clean. She nodded. Good. You running spot? He hesitated, then nodded. If you'll have me. She gave a faint smile. All right then, let's work. They set up the Barrett again, this time with every eye watching. A drone camera hovered far overhead, feeding the live shot to the command tent's monitors. The metal target shimmered faintly on the horizon. Target confirmed, 3,800 meters, Briggs called out. Wind steady, temperature 31 Celsius. Mia adjusted the scope, her movements crisp, fluid. To those who hadn't seen her before, it looked almost rehearsed, like a dance learned through years of repetition. Range ready, she said. Reeves stood behind the line, hands folded, watching silently. Mia took a breath, then another. The entire base seemed to pause with her. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, a thunderclap echoing across the desert. Seconds stretched thin. Then, ping. The target swayed again. Direct hit. Even the generals stood from their seats. The drone feed replayed it in slow motion. Perfect center strike. Reeves couldn't help the grin that broke across his face. Briggs lowered his binoculars slowly, eyes wide. That's confirmed impact. Dead center. Applause rippled from the line, hesitant at first, then genuine. Soldiers who'd doubted her yesterday now looked at her like something out of legend. But Mia just cleared the chamber, checked the barrel, and handed the rifle back to Briggs. You should recalibrate for humidity shift, she said simply. He nodded, still stunned. Yes, ma'am. As she turned to leave, one of the generals, a broad-shouldered man with silver stars and decades of authority behind his voice, stepped forward. Sergeant Torres, he called. She stopped. Sir. He studied her for a moment, then said, you ever consider coming back to operational duty? We could use shooters with that kind of precision. Mia met his gaze evenly. With respect, sir, the armory's where I belong. It's quiet there. The general smiled faintly. Quiet doesn't seem to suit your range. She gave a small nod. You'd be surprised what you can hear in silence. Then she walked away, boots crunching softly in the dust, the hum of whispers rising behind her like an echo that wouldn't fade. That night, in the barracks, Briggs found her sitting outside under the dim lights, cleaning a sidearm. Can I ask you something? He said quietly. She didn't look up. You can ask. Why'd you leave Tier 1? You could have been a legend. Mia paused, setting the weapon down. Legends don't get to stop. Soldiers do. He nodded slowly, understanding more than her words admitted. Still, he said, if you ever decide to teach, I'll be first in line. She gave him a small smile, the kind that said she'd heard that before. Then learn to listen to the wind first. It tells you more than the bullet ever will. The desert breeze carried her words away, soft and even. Somewhere far beyond, the range sat empty again, but the mark she'd made there would last longer than any steel target.